Welcome. This is a short video to summarize the things that we talked about in the January 25th class, as well as some ideas about how to fix some things that came up during the class. So first off, we got off to a great start, and I'm really proud of all of you. Basically, we covered how to add new sprites by clicking on Choose Sprite from Library. You see when you do this, you get a selection, and you click on one, and you have to add them one by one, and you click on OK. I'm going to cancel for here. And then we also covered how to paint a new sprite. You know, if you click this little paintbrush here, you'll get this little paint screen with the boxes. And you'll get your toolbox on the left as well. And we talked about how if you want to add a rectangle, you click on the rectangle, and if you want to add text, not everybody got to this, but if you click on this, you can add text like if you wanted to make a sign on your stage. We also talked about the paint bucket, where if you click on this and then pick from one of the colors here and click on the inside of an area that you've created, it'll fill the entire area. And we have the erase tool, which is a circular tool, so it's not a straight edge. But if you click on that and then you make your boxes bigger by clicking on the plus, it makes it a little bit easier to do a clean clear. Also, you have the option of clicking clear up here, though that will take care of deleting everything. So it depends on what you're trying to get rid of and how much you're trying to cover. So quickly, I want to go over the three main things that we found in the class on the 25th of January that we didn't maybe get a chance to explain to everybody. First off, we had several people that couldn't find the sprite that they added to their screen. And I want to show you an example of how you can fix this. I'm going to get out of this paint screen. I'm going to go to scripts. And you see here, I have two sprites here, and only one's on the screen. And you think, oh my gosh, where is he? One of the things that I didn't talk to you about on Saturday, this past Saturday, is how do you find the X and the Y coordinates of your sprite? And we talked a little bit about Scratch uses X and Y to identify a sprite's position, and when we get into more programming of the animation, you'll see how that comes into play. But you'll see my little crabby here? If you go all the way over here, you'll see in this far right-hand corner, you can always see the X and the Y coordinates. Right now he's at X 22 and Y negative 32. And watch how it changes as I move him. See, it changed. I moved him down and his Y coordinate increased negatively. And if I move him back up, his Y number changed into the positive. So that's one way of telling where your sprite is located in your canvas, but still we don't know where our little cat icon is. So I told a couple of people of this, and I think we'll review this next Saturday. The y-axis, the range is negative 180 to positive 180. And on the x-axis, it's positive 240, negative 240. So you want to keep your x and y coordinates 180, negative 240, negative 180, 240. If you position your character outside of, like if you had your y coordinate is 275, he's just not going to be on the screen. And that's one thing about Scratch, is there isn't a camera that can follow your character. So you pretty much have to keep it in that 180, 240, 180, 240 box. So you'll see when I click on Scratch here, let's take a look and see. First off, we don't see him on the screen, right? Because he's just plain not in that 180, 240, 180, 240 box. And we can see, where is he? Ah, his X coordinate is 316, which is way bigger than 240. So you're sort of stuck at this point. You can't grab him with your mouse and drag him back over. But what you can do is you can write a short little program. I'm going to show you here. Everybody at this point has made their character move, so I think this will be a nice review to show how to use the blocks, very basic blocks. click on Event, and I would suggest when green flag is clicked, and you can use this to control where your sprite goes when your story or your video first starts. You can tell it which X and which Y to go to. So I'm going to simply say, when the green flag is clicked, set X to 0 and Y to 0. And then I'm going to click on my green flag. Ah, and here he is. So that's a quick way to get him back. Now, once you've got him back positioned, you don't have to keep this script. I mean, it might not be part of the story that you want to program, but just for simply trying to find him, you can use it just one time. And if you want to just use it one time, not again, just drag it over here, and you can see he'll stay right put. So that's a nice, easy fix. The other thing I wanted to go over is we didn't really talk about the difference between drawing on your stage and drawing on a sprite, or even creating a custom sprite. So you'll see here when you click on the stage, instead of getting a costume, the middle tab is called backdrops. If you click on the sprite, you'll see that middle tab is called a costume. And when you click on the stage and you click on the backdrop, you don't get the same box grid like you do when you're working with your sprite. I'm not exactly sure why Scratch did that, but that is how it works, and it just makes it a little less precise when you're trying to add things to your stage. The other thing to keep in mind is whatever you draw here as a backdrop, you cannot animate. It's simply a static or a non-moving part of your story. So it's simply backdrop, which is why I think they give it a different name. I had one or two of you ask me about that, like, oh, why isn't it moving? And it's like, but you drew it on the stage, and the stage you can't animate, because you can see scripts on the stage. There aren't a whole lot that you can do. Like, there's no motion, there's no look. Well, there's looks, I'm sorry. You can change different colors, but like you can't move things. I'm trying to think. You can do sound, you can do pen, you can do variables, you can do a lot of things, but you really can't make things move. So that's a big difference between the stage and the sprites. So a couple of folks, though, we did notice when they had done something to their stage and then went to their sprite and wanted to add something, didn't get these little boxes. I think if you find that happens, a way to reset Scratch is to go ahead and act like you're going to add a new sprite by clicking on this paint tool. And I found that when there were a couple of projects, and I did look at your work, that had that blank screen and it didn't have the boxes, and I had clicked on a sprite. When I did this and then went back to this sprite and clicked on costume, the boxes reappeared. So I think it's just a little bit of a glitchy thing on 2.0. So we'll take a look at that in the next class and see if that pops up and see if that doesn't do the trick. The last thing I wanted to tell you about is we did notice that folks had programmed their script correctly, but the action didn't go like we were expecting. And again, I think that has to do with keeping in mind that Scratch 2.0 is entirely web-based, so that when you are designing something, you can see something here, but it takes the server a while to recognize, oh, that's the script that goes to that character. So if you were to program something, you can see right now mine's being a little slow. And it is 5:30 on a Sunday, which I think would be a pretty high traffic time for Scratch. So let's say I wanted him, when I clicked the green, and you want him to move, let's say change Y, let's do that, by 10. Okay, so that's, say you're here, you've added your sprite, you've added your programming. As we talked about in the class, Scratch, I don't have to save this. Scratch detects that I've made this change and it goes, okay, I got it. But if there's a lot of traffic on the server, there could be 5,000 people that added a programming change like this, and they can't all squeeze through the door at the same time. So it's going to queue you up. And I imagine that there are times when there are just the right amount of people in Scratch all making changes that's going to make your programming wait. So that's something I think we're going to have to keep an eye on. We noticed it more in the 1 o'clock class than we did in the 9 o'clock class. So don't be surprised if something that you do doesn't work immediately. Give it a little bit of time, and I will keep an eye on it too. In fact, I found a couple of examples in the class where I witnessed it not working, the programming, but when I took it home later that night and looked at it, by that time Scratch had, we call, posted your programming, and then it was working correctly. So all in all, I think it was a very great way to test 2.0. I really appreciate your patience and your hard work, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next Saturday. Talk to you soon.